Hey y'all, welcome back. It's Gabian. I'm living in my van, and I'm going to review some really good comics later, so you better stick around. This week I have something serious to talk about. We're going to talk about conspiracies and what's going on in the world. If you haven't been paying attention to the news, then you have no idea what's going on. So let me go ahead and get started. First of all, let's say hi to Yard Kitty. She says hi. It's a little chilly out here, so she's sticking around here to stay a little warm. So let me get started with this alien thing. So what's going on with this alien thing? First, we have Obama going on some podcast and talking about how the aliens are real, and he's the president, so you're going to listen to what he's got to say. And then you got the other president, Trump. He's coming in and he's saying, oh, I'm going to tell you all about them aliens. So something important's going to happen. And a matter of fact, this morning, there was this scientist that I heard about. He got shot on his porch, shot dead, and he lives out in the middle of nowhere. And he worked for NASA. And his job was to monitor the asteroid that's coming to Earth that looks like it's on a weird projectile. It's kind of turning a little, and asteroids don't do that. So he's all looking into that. So what's going on? What's all this alien stuff that everyone's talking about? So you need to start paying attention to everything that's going on in the news. That guy, he was the fourth NASA scientist since December 5th that has been shot and killed. And they must know something, and they must be wanting to tell us the truth. So maybe it's bigger than aliens, who knows? So I just want everybody to start paying attention to the news. I'm going to start looking at the news more. I'm going to see what's going on in the world, and I'm going to go down some of these rabbit holes, and I'll be talking to you about it throughout my videos and things like that. So pay attention. That's all you got to do. You got to pay attention. Open your eyes. Look at what's going on around you. And that being said, I got a couple comic books that you're going to want to read. And they're about along these lines. You're gonna read these comic books. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started on them. Dave is gonna review some comic books. He's gonna tell you what he thinks. He's gonna give it a 5-star rating, a 1 out of 5 of them stars. All right, like I was saying, if you're gonna wanna read into all this conspiracy theories and things, I got a couple of good books for you that I would definitely check out. I'm gonna go ahead and start with this one. It's really interesting, and it's a series of them, of course, and I got the first one of the series, and it's called Department of Truth. Okay, Department of Truth, and this is by Image. They're gonna tell you certain things that make you think. This comic, it's one of them thinking comics, so you're going to want to look at it. It's written by James Tynion IV. Artist is Martin Simmons. Lettering is Aditya Bidikar. Designed by Dylan Todd and edited by Steve Fox. And it's called Department of Truth. And let me see if I can find a year. This one's made in 2020, and that's really interesting because it's 2026 now, and so who knows what else has come up since then. So they'll probably put it in this book here. So this book starts off with this Agent Cole. He's part of the FBI, and what he does is he looks at all these memes and things online from all the websites that are kind of like trolling websites and stuff, and he's trying to find some truth in it, right? Well, first of all, it talks. Oh, Kitty got me. Kitty clawed me right in the leg, man. All right. So first of all, it starts off with this guy in Dallas, Texas, November 22nd, 1963, and they pulled this guy in, and they're talking to him, and they're asking him. They're like, he's like, I didn't do it. I just worked there. I didn't do it. And they're talking about Kennedy, when Kennedy was shot. So and his name is Lee Harvey Oswald, I believe. So they're interviewing him and stuff, and then this guy says, "Okay, we're gonna talk to this guy. You guys, you other coppers, you get out of here. We're gonna talk to this guy. No cameras or nothing." So they're talking to him, and they're like, we're gonna pin this on you. I know you didn't do it, but we're gonna pin this on you, and there's nothing you can do about it. All you gotta say is, yes sir, yes sir. And they're like, do you understand? And he's like, yeah, up is down and down is up. And I thought that was pretty clever. So this is the first book. It's chapter 1, End of the World. And if you go through it and you're reading it, it follows this Dr. Cole, this FBI Cole that I was telling you about. And, he's just coming back from this trip, and you'll find that out later. But they're taking him to the Library of Congress, and he gets out of the car, and he's with this other agent, and they're going to go in, and they're going to have this little interview, right? And he thinks he's going to get shot dead for what he just saw, and we don't know what that is yet, but they're going to talk about it in this comic book. So they're asking him, tell me everything that you saw. Tell me, start from the beginning. Tell me what you saw. And so he's like, okay, I don't believe it, and I don't think you're going to believe it, but I'm going to tell you what I saw. And he goes to this convention, this flat earther convention, where all these people believe that the earth is flat, not round. And they're all dressed up in these polo shirts, and he thought that was kind of funny. And but he's all walking around, and he goes to all these, looks at all these seminars and things like that. When we get into his hotel room at the end of one of the conventions on the first night or so, who knows, and there's this guy, he's like, hey, I want you to come with me now. And he's like, but I have a husband, and I don't want to, I'm tired and everything. And he's like, you don't have a choice, you're gonna have to come with me now. So, and they know who he is. They know his name is Cole. Cole Turner is what it is. So they take him to this big room, this fancy looking room where a bunch of these big guys and they're oil guys and stuff, and they take him in there, and they all want to meet him because they know who he is. They know he's from the FBI. They got people in Washington who let them know who's there and who's not. And he was talking about how bad their breath smells and everything, and if they're so rich, why don't they get their teeth cleaned? And I think that's a good point. So they bring him into this room, and they're all watching this film that's on a screen, and there's just a bunch of guys, a bunch of rich guys, and then there's one girl who's in a red dress, and she's got sunglasses on. He's like, it's darker than hell out here. Why is she wearing sunglasses? And so they're all looking at the film, and it's footage of the lunar landing. But if they look real close in the background, you see this guy with just a paper cup, no suit or anything on. And so they're like, see, it's all a hoax. See, it's a hoax. And they said that they pulled it from this one filmmaker's library. Oh, what's his name? Kubrick. They take it from Kubrick's library, right? And so they're all laughing. They're like, see, it's all a lie. It's all a lie. We're going to tell the world and everything. And so what they do after that meeting is they take him on this private jet, and they're going to show him something. All these guys are going together. They're going to show him something. So they're all in this private jet together, all these big wigs, the big rich guys with their smelly breath and everything. And, of course, that one lady in the red dress, she's going in there too. And he still didn't know the story behind who she is. So they're going, and they see that the Earth is flat after flying days and days and getting fuel, refueled and everything on the plane. They finally see the end of the world. Can you believe it? They're going to show you the end of the world in this comic book too. I'll show you too. So everyone's like, isn't that amazing? And they're like, yeah. So they're like, okay, suit up. We're gonna take a helicopter ride over to this one place, and we're gonna show you something really cool. How the Earth is flat, because these guys are they're flat earthers and stuff. So everybody, they get all suited up in their winter gear and everything like that, and they go out, and they're like, wow, this is really cool. But then that lady in the red dress, turns out she's shooting all these old men with all this money that she's just gunning them down. She pulls her gun out, she guns them all down, but she leaves FBI Cole alive because she knows who Cole is, and she's like, you know, I gotta take you somewhere. You gotta come with me. Pardon, that's Kitty bumping the camera there. So they go and that's when he shows up in this interview room, you know, that they're talking to in the very beginning. So she takes him to see these guys, and he's like, well, who the hell are you guys, and what do you want with me? And they're like, we want you to be part of this program. You're no longer with the FBI, you're with us now. And of course, Cole's got all these questions about, like, you know, who's the woman in the red dress, and all these other things. And they're like, you know what? Just wait. We're going to answer your questions later. Why don't you wait until you're on the payroll so you're getting paid for it? You're going to have many more questions after we tell you these questions. So, and he's like, okay, but I still have all these questions. And like, who am I working for? And then it turns out that he's working for a new department. It's called the Department of Truth. And the guy that he was talking to the entire time, the old interviewing man, said, my name is Lee Harvey Oswald. Welcome to the Department of Truth. Can you believe that? That is something else. I tell you what. So what they want to tell you is that conspiracy theories, they're trying to throw you off. They're making them up because they want to throw you off. And what the Department of Truth's doing, they're going to get down to the bottom of it, and they're going to quelch those theories as soon as they can. And I'm really excited to look at the next one. The next one says it's Satanic Panic. So that's going to be all about the Satanic Panic. This book's really going to open your eyes to what kind of conspiracy theories are not true, and maybe the ones that are true. So I definitely recommend looking into this comic, The Department of Truth. I'm gonna give it 5 stars because I think it's something that everyone needs to read. 5 stars for this one, and you're gonna want to bag it up because you gotta show people and tell them what's going on in the world, and they'll never believe you unless they read it in this comic book. So you're gonna want to bag it up, maybe take it out later when you're showing your friends and telling them about, you know, different things, and say, listen, this is not how it goes. So this one's a bagger. It's 5 stars, Department of Truth. 2020. Now this next one's a little bit different because it's based on a true story, and you're gonna see that conspiracy theories are real, and it really hurt this man, and it could hurt you in the same way. So you got to be careful. So this next book here is by Political Power, Blue Water Comics, and this is about Colin Powell. So Colin Powell is $3.99. The other one didn't have a price on it, but I'll look into it later. But this one's Colin Powell. It was written by Wei Yu Lo. M. Scott Woodward penciled it. Kirsty Swan colored it. Wilson Ramos Jr. lettered it. And Darren G. Davis did the graphics. And this was made in 2009. July of 2009. So, and it starts off with the guy that made it, this Wei Yu Lo, I believe it's him that is doing it. He starts off saying, okay, I'm writing this comic book, and this guy's a great guy, and we couldn't fit all the information we wanted to on it. And I say they just make a whole series of Colin Powell if that's the case. But so he's like, okay, let's just get started. I'm going to start telling you all about Colin Powell. So he's saying that the Colin Powell was one of the most influential people in the United States ever, and he's just this really good guy. And they start talking about his past. Well, he grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and he's just a kid. And back then, Brooklyn, was like a melting pot of a whole bunch of different cultures. You got your Jewish, you got your Asians, you got your blacks, you got your whites, you got everything all mixed in, where nobody was above anybody else, and everybody was respected. This is back in the 40s, excuse me. This is back in the 40s. And World War II was going on. He was a little kid, and they used to play guns and see if they could see German. They'd climb up on the rooftop, see if they see German planes with their binoculars and things like that. And his sister was doing pretty good in school. But he was never a really good learner. He was never really good in school. So he had to fill, these big shoes, and he couldn't do it. But he got by. He passed. He went to college and things like that, and he graduated. And they're like, son, you need to go to college because, you want to be something good in this world, so you got to go to college and learn something. So he did. He went to the community college there, and he found the ROTC program, and he's like, hey, I really like this ROTC program. So after the first year was in summer, he went to this base camp, for ROTC and everything, and it was in the South. And so he learned about racism when he got there, because in the South they had a bunch of racism. In Brooklyn, he didn't have to deal with so much of that. And he was a good ROTC soldier, and he got decorated with the second highest decoration. And the generals just went up and straight told him, he's like, there's no way in hell that we're going to give you the top one because you're a black boy, and we don't treat black boys the same. This was back in the 50s at this time. And this was before all that desegregation, things like that. So, but he dealt with it, and he still loved it. He loved this ROTC. He found something that he really liked. So he continued going to school up in Brooklyn. He graduated and all that. And then when he found this girl that he liked, Alma, and he really liked her, and he was gonna, they had a good time and everything. But he got drafted to go to the Vietnam War. And she was like, I don't want to wait for you. I don't want to be a pen pal. I want to be a girlfriend. And so he decided that he was going to propose to her and ask her to marry him. Well, she said yes. They got married. And they eventually had 3 kids. But first, when he was in Vietnam, he had his first kid. It was Michael. But she was pregnant with him. And he was fighting in the Vietnam War and everything. And they were, if you didn't know this, America was losing that war. And everyone was saying that they were winning it, but nope, they were losing it. And so a lot of his good friends died, and he had to deal with that and keep fighting on, So he learned that if you just, bad things happen today, but you just wake up tomorrow and they could be different. So I think that's a good little message. In the meanwhile, Alma was pregnant in Birmingham, Alabama, where everything was going on with these racism and stuff, and all these white people were bombing all these black people's houses and things like that, because that's where they were based at, in Birmingham, Alabama. So she had to sleep with the shotgun in her lap and everything, and it was just awful. But they finally straightened that mess out, and they had their baby Michael at that point. So he was fighting in this Vietnam War. He was decorated and everything. He came back, and he decided to, he got his first star around that time. And a star is a big deal, where you get, you get your star, you become a general and things like that. So in 1979 was when they got that first star as a brigadier general. That's the first star there. His dad passed away of cancer, and he wasn't able to make it, but his mom was there, and that was kind of special. And so he, 5 years later, he received his second star. That was 1983, and on 1986, he got his third star. So he was a 3-star general at this point. In 1987, Reagan, Ronald Reagan, he was the president then, and he's like, I'm going to make you, he was a national security advisor to Ronald Reagan, and he was the first African-American person to have that role. So that's pretty cool. That's something to be proud of. So he continued working under Reagan, and he was also you know, he was also the youngest, you know, youngest one of them too. So that's a pretty big deal. But then he was fighting the Cold War, and the Cold War, you know, is an arms race, which means, you know, you got to fight, and you got to figure out who's going to get the best, you know, the best weapon, you know, nuclear weapons, and who's going the furthest, and things like that. Well, Colin Powell, he went over to the Soviet Union, and he talked them. He's like, you know, let's stop doing this. Let's stop it. We don't need the biggest weapon, you know, nothing's going to happen. Nothing good's going to come of this. And so he helped end the Cold War, which is pretty cool. Because he went over there and he did all that. So, but then after that, under George Bush, there was the Iraq War. I'm sorry, it was in Kuwait. Yeah, Iraq and Kuwait. And they're all coming up to the border and saying, you know, we're going to kill you, you know, we don't like you, and things like that. Well, Colin Powell had a hand in that as well. He's like, listen, I was in Vietnam. I don't want anything bad to happen. Let's try to do this diplomatically, you know? And so he tried to make things as good as possible. And there was no way around it. They had to go in there and they had to, you know, push back on Saddam Hussein was that leader over there at the time, and so they pushed him back, and they got him. They're like, okay, we're not going to do it anymore. And that was George Bush Sr. where he did all that, and then let's see. So he talked George W. Bush into ending it. He's like, listen. We pushed them back. We don't need to have any more killings and deaths. People aren't going to like that. So he pushed them back. And then, so yeah, he basically ended that war. Well, later on, he was, on January of 2001, he took a long time off, but 2001, excuse me, he decided to be the Secretary of State under George W. Bush. So they told him to do that, and he was also the youngest person to receive that one. I think he was, you know, he was pretty young then too. So, and he had all this experience, and you know, he worked for George's daddy. So they're like, okay, you could be our Secretary of State. And at that time, there was this Desert Storm. I'm sorry, not Desert Storm. After September 11th, the terrorist attack, there was all this. You know, they were saying Saddam Hussein had all these weapons of mass destruction and things like that. And so they're like, you know, what are we going to do about this? He's got to go to a meeting and he's talking to him. What are we going to do about this? You know, weapons of mass destruction, that's awful. And so he's like, you know, let's just not do anything. Let's do it diplomatically. Because, you know, he didn't want any more people to die and get killed and things like that. So, well, they listened to him. But then they had another meeting. And this guy comes in and he's like, well, I have this report and it says, you know what, they do have weapons of mass destruction and they're not going to let us know anything about it. They're not letting the UN in there to do anything about it. So we're going to have to do something. So he's like, okay, yeah, I guess if they're not listening and they do have these weapons of mass destruction, you know, that's a dangerous thing to do. And so they decided to do the war. And if you remember, there's a long war, a lot of bad things happened in it and things like that. Well, it comes turn out that report that they gave, this is where the conspiracy theory comes in, that report that Colin Powell had read, that they brought to that meeting, it was false. That was something that shouldn't have happened. They lied on that report just so they could go to war, talk Colin Powell to go to war, get him on their side and things like that. So he's like, okay, listen, this is messed up. He had to give this big speech to America, and everyone, you know, blamed him for it. Well, he was just the fall guy, and that's exactly what the conspiracy theory is. He was the fall guy. They had to take him down, probably because he was some old black man and didn't, you know, do what they said. And I think that was kind of wrong, but it happened, and you got to read up into that stuff. So he retired, and he didn't come back. They didn't let him back in because, you know, they said that it was his fault. And I'm telling you, you gotta read all of the stuff that's going on in the world today, because, you know, no one's gonna be on your side. You gotta make the best decisions for what you know in your heart and what you can find out on your own, and make sure it comes from a good source. So this political power, Colin Powell, I'm going to definitely give this one 5 stars. He's a really good guy, 4-star general, Secretary of State, things like that. $3.99, you can't beat that price. So 5 stars, and this is going to be a bagger, because you're going to want to come back and get in. You're going to get inspired, you know, from this Colin Powell story. So you're going to want to read that just to keep you, you know, up to date with everything. And then you're gonna, you know, remind yourself that there are some good people in this world, and you gotta remember what happened to these good people too. So that's definitely a bagger there. So I recommend checking these 2 out. This is Department of Truth and Colin Powell, and they got some others on some other good guys there too. And Department of Truth, they're gonna make some more comics, and I can't wait to read what they got going on in them. So you gotta stay up and stay alert, and be careful where you get your information. Aliens are real, and I hope they come soon. And we're going to talk a lot more about that in the future videos. All right, y'all take care.